That whatever his status under the immigration laws, an alien is surely a person. Aliens, even aliens whose presence in this country is unlawful, have long been recognized as persons, guaranteed due process of law by the 5th and 14th Amendments. So the ACLU's got an in, so then the next question becomes, what is our role in this? And our national board regularly goes through adopting policies, adjusting policies and that sort of thing. And there are a number of our policies on the national level that address how we can get involved in immigration issues. But for the most part, and a lot of these were adopted in the late 1970s, despite the fact that we've got involvement in this issue going back to the 1920s. 1970s, most of those policies that were adopted in the 1970s get to this issue of discrimination. If you're going to do something to immigrants, you got to do it fairly. You got to do it in a way that doesn't single the immigrant out for especially harsh treatment. You've got to treat them the way you're treating everybody else that is similarly situated. And so we talk about admission of immigrants. You can't say, okay, because you believe in certain principles, we'll let you into the country, but we're not going to let you into the country. You can't say, okay, we're going to let you into the country because you're a particular religion, and we're not going to let you in the country because of your religion. There are certain things that the government has to do in order to treat an immigrant group fairly. And a lot of our policies are sort of like that in terms of admission, in terms of deportation. The country is allowed to protect its borders. It's allowed to determine issues related to citizenship and entry into the country. It's allowed to determine issues related to security of the country. But when it's making these kind of decisions, it simply has to treat immigrants on a fair, equitable, and just basis, and can't single people out on the basis of these characteristics that are unfair among citizens. Similarly, they would be unfair among immigrant populations. The ACLU has considered over time whether to take up a broader immigration portfolio of work. The issue that's at the core of the debate now is whether there ought to be a path to citizenship for those who are in the country without proper documentation. It's been something that's been considered. And I would, Joe, you may know better than me, I know it's been considered in the past several years, and it may have been considered over a lot longer time, because this issue comes up every once in a while. They reform the immigration laws and then they sort of take care of the folks who are in the country without documentation, and then the problem grows again. And that's the point that we're at right now. There's not really anything in the Constitution that allows us to get to the core of that issue, though. And so the ACLU has not really taken a position on whether there ought to be a path to citizenship for those who are in the country in an undocumented basis right now. Most undocumented workers are integrated into our economy as workers now, though. They're consumers, they're contributors. Large numbers of them are living in communities. They've established themselves in the economy, even though they don't have proper documentation. And so, you know, there's a legitimate argument. You've got 12 million undocumented immigrants. What are the implications of taking all those people and putting them outside the borders, even if you could do that? Well, you know, I think there are severe implications for that. But the question is whether that's an ACLU issue or not. Notwithstanding that, the ACLU wants to be involved in the discussion. You know, we want to be involved in the issues of discrimination and unfair treatment of these folks. And so how do you participate? In the Washington Legislative Office, one of the things that we do in order to multiply our impact is we work in coalition with other groups. And so, for example, all of the immigration coalition groups, most all of them, have a position on this path to citizenship. And so we're stuck in the position of wanting to ally ourselves with these coalition members, but not being able to buy into the whole range of their positions. And so it puts us in a different position vis-a-vis lobbying members of Congress on this particular issue. And I would wager that the same kind of thing happens on the state level. The state affiliates don't have the same kind of direction from the national office, although affiliates can act independently and often do. I know my board in Alaska had a couple of positions that were, this way to national positions on a couple of issues. But largely, affiliates recognize, and the national office recognizes, that if we're all on the same page, we do a better, more effective, more powerful job. But I would expect the same sort of conflict arises in most of the affiliates. What's the path into this core of the immigration argument? I don't know if there's a good answer there, but there's a lot of questions. Why is it that we talk about a path to citizenship? Can we be talking about a path to something other than citizenship? Is there an ACLU take on that issue? Well, I'm just posing the questions here. I don't think there are any answers. If you figure out this issue about a path to citizenship or a path to legal status, what do you do right after you figure that out? What happens to the next group of people who come here without documentation? And is there a way to fix that? And is it fair to offer this kind of solution to this group of people who are here right now without offering it to the next group of people who may come here without documentation? And what about the people who got in line legally? Is it fair to them to all of a sudden give a path to legal status to this group? Does that somehow push back the folks who have actually been playing by the rules, who are interested in coming here? I mean, people are interested in coming here for a reason. It can be many, many different reasons, whether it's economic advantage or political freedom or whatever. There are many, many different reasons for people to want to come here. The decisions that get made in trying to answer this core decision affect everybody in the game, and they also affect those who are citizens now, whether naturalized citizens or citizens by birth. Again, I say there are no answers that I'm going to offer you on these things, but these kind of questions are those that get in the way of the ACLU taking the kind of very strong upfront leadership kinds of positions on the immigration issue. But is that to say that we are not involved in the immigration debate? No, not at all, and I think we are leaders on some aspects of this debate. But if you accept the notion that the core of this debate is figuring out how to solve the issue of what to do with 12 million undocumented individuals in the country, ACLU to a certain extent has to be sort of nipping around the edges of that argument, at least in some cases, or in some parts of it. I'll go back to the beginning. The issue has been around since the beginning of the country or before. The first Immigration Act was in 1790, and I think it required 2 years of residency before you were eligible to apply for naturalized status. Within 5 years, that act was amended, went to 5 years, and then it sort of went from there. And then another few years, it went to 14 years. And so, the immigration debate started at the beginning of this country.